Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Today we are going to be recapping the year of 2025 as it did come to a close, and we are now in 2026. How is your 2026? How is your 2026 going so far? Because my 2026, it's going well. It's going well so far. There's a lot of new things that are sprouting. There's a lot of old things that are trying to make their way back in, and I'm pushing them back out the door. But I feel good about it so far. It's crazy to me that we're already like halfway through January. Like those first 2.5 weeks went by so quick, y'all. I don't even, I need this, I need the year to slow down just a little bit, just a tad bit. I got some plans that I need to make before we get to the next months. And so like the year needs to let me make those plans, and then we can like, get the ball running so then I can get on to those plans. But for now, we're going to look back on the year of 2025. When I think of the year of 2025 in film, what comes to mind exactly? So you see, like literally up until like up until fall of 2025, I felt like 2025 was a bad year in film, like not a good year. I don't know if I want to say bad, but I felt like it was not a good year in film. We had a lot of duds, y'all, up until like September hit. We really did, and that's probably because like I think like the Oscar season, like all the Oscar contenders this year are really like some of the best films of the year, and that's usually like not really what happens in my opinion. I feel like the most, let me say like the most beloved films of the year. A lot of the most beloved films of the year usually aren't like the whole entire slate for the Oscar contenders. But I feel like for the past 3 years, the Oscars race has kind of like really determined like what's the most beloved films for film watchers in general, which is like interesting because I feel like the beginning of like, I feel like the first 3 years, I feel like 2020, 2021, and 2022. Those 3 years of Best Picture nominees like are not beloved films. Like they're just not. Like there's a lot of films in those first 3 years of this decade that are just like couldn't care to talk about them. It's like majority of the films in those in those category lineups are like that. However, I feel like ever since like 2023, 2024, 2025, we've gotten like lineups for Best Picture that are like really exciting and like people want to look back on and be like, oh my gosh, this was a good year. Or at least like I felt good about that lineup. I feel like there's a lot of trends in 2025 that I really just imbibe with. There's a lot of trends throughout film in 2025 that like really just did not speak to me. What trends am I talking about? I feel like what I've seen as a trend, and we're gonna go through all the films that like I watched last year, like majority of the films I watched last year. I don't know about all of them, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts on them. But I feel like there's a trend in a lot of the films that I watched last year where like I think the major trend is like the third act being bad. I feel like there was just so many films last year who like they could not stick the landing. They were building up to things. There's so many films that were building up to things, and they just could not stick the landing in the third act, which really was like very disappointing because it was just like every time I'm going to the movies, I'm spending an hour or 90 minutes feeling like really, really good. And then coming out having spent like the last 30 minutes of my life feeling really disappointed and upset or bad or like mad and sometimes. And that's just not fun. Like you want your films to feel whole and complete. And I feel like a lot of films in 2025 just fell off a cliff when it came like after the second act. I feel like they're like an hour is all we need to do to be cohesive, and then they're just gonna be with us, and that's not what I wanted. Another trend in 2025 was like parenthood. Like almost every single film that I watched has like some type of like storytelling in regards to parenthood. And like I'm not saying like Parenthood hasn't been like a centerpiece in regards to like cinema storytelling. Like obviously like every year you have a slew of films that like want to hit on like, the trials and tribulations of parenthood and being a parent. But it felt like 85% of the films from last year were doing this. Literally, if you look at the Best Picture nominees right now, like majority of them are about parenthood. If you look at, you have one battle after another, Parenthood, Sinners, Parenthood, at the end of it, Parenthood, Hammett, Parenthood, Marty Supreme, Parenthood, Jay Kelly, which is not really an Oscar contender at this point, but Parenthood, Frankenstein, which is literally like an allegory for parenthood. What else? Sentimental Value, Parenthood. it was just an accident. I have not seen It Was Just an Accident yet. Sorry, like I'm failing like everybody. Like from Jafar Panahi, he's like whole camp. But I feel like that's about parenthood to a certain extent. I believe it is based on like an interview I heard on it. But and everything else, like Avatar: Way of Water, which I don't know if it's gonna get a Best Picture nomination or not, but like that's about parenthood. Everything's about parenthood. Begonia's not about parenthood actually. That might be like the only film that's like not about parenthood in the Best Picture lineup. And then you have all these other films I'm going to talk about today that are about parenthood. And it's just like really frustrating because like I'm young and I'm childish. Gen Z, we don't have children. Like not many of us have children, and we don't know a lot of people who are our age who have children, right? So it's like, how many times can you try to pull this empathy out of me and the sympathy out of me towards this storytellings and 2 hour long movies about parenthood? It's like the well has run dry, and I need like there to be no storytelling about parenthood until like maybe April. Like I need a quarter of the year just to give me a break from that. But the trend in parenthood really has shown me that like we're kind of living in a millennials world. Like this is just a millennials world now, and we're living in it. Like millennials are literally like they've taken over the whole entire like middle age demographic in terms of age. Like I feel like your millennial is from like right now, I think like your millennials are like 30 years old to like 48 years old. That's like all like prime parenthood ages. So then now like they're being catered to. I feel like the 40-year-old market is who like everyone caters to in like the like, you know, the auteur filmmaking world. And so like now we're just getting all this like parenthood stuff because all these millennials are having their parents, whereas they used to not be parents. And now like, you know, and also like millennials, just like Gen Z, they're later parents. They're not early parents. A lot of these millennials had their kids like in their early 30s, right? And so there, even though like all these stories are surrounding like people in their middle age, it's just all about parenthood and like the tribulations of it. And like that's really like one of my gripes with Marty Supreme. It's like, why do we end on parenthood? Like this is not supposed to be a story about parenthood, but it is. Okay, like I guess it is supposed to be one, but like that's not what I wanted to come for. So but I will stop that tangent and we can just go right into all of my thoughts on the films of 2025 that I viewed. But I think in this video I want to just go ahead and start and give you all of my favorite films of 2025. I won't start off with a bad note. We'll get into my least favorite films of 2025, but I want to first come to you with all of my good notes. Okay, so let's get right into that. First up, we have 28 Years Later, Yes. Now, this is in my top 4, I believe, of my films of the year. Yes, it is. And I'll give you my top 10 at the end of this video, but I have not made a video about 28 Years Later. I just didn't get around to it. It came out like before I really started the channel, so I didn't have enough like, you know, energy towards making a whole video about it. But also, I did just see The Bone Temple, and I do want to make a video on that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go rewatch 28 Years Later, then go and rewatch The Bone Temple in the theaters, and then make a video about it. Okay, so that should be coming also in like a few weeks. But 28 Years Later, such a good film. I did not watch 28 Days Later, and I did not watch 28 Weeks Later until literally like 2 years ago. I feel like 2024 was the first time that I watched 28 Days Later, and I watched it with my friends like right here on my couch, right? And when we watched it, it was cool. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this is a vibe. Like yes, love. You know, it was like, I think I watched it because it was like Oppenheimer season, and I wanted to like watch some more stuff with Cillian Murphy just to like understand. I saw all like Cillian Murphy in like Christopher Nolan's filmography, but I hadn't seen like a lot of like other IP or other like storytellings that Cillian Murphy had been a part of. So I was like, let's watch that. Let me get everybody in here to watch that. So that's what we did. And it was a cool little vibe. Like it was cool. Like it was zombie storytelling, you know. I wasn't high on it. I wasn't low on it. So it was just like, it was a good experience. I did not watch 28 Weeks Later though. 28 Weeks Later, the only thing I know about 28 Weeks Later is that like sequence that everybody loves to post online where like the guy's running from like the zombies like at the beginning of the movie, I believe. It's like a long stretch of him, like he's leaving his family behind and he's running from the zombies like through a prairie and all this stuff. So that was the only like conception I had of the IP. Now, when 28 Years Later debuted like their trailer, and Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I am fond of, was like at the helm of it, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna tap in for this. And the trailer wasn't really too like zombie-ish. It wasn't really like too zombie-ish, in my opinion. Like it was a lot of zombies, but it felt like there was more to the story than just like, this is like another zombie storytelling. So I was like, I'm gonna tap in, I'm gonna go. Now, I do not have a good pass for Alex Garland either, because Alex Garland did write the film. However, I gave my chance because I did go and see Civil War, which I will talk about later in this film. And I was like, maybe Alex Garland, like maybe I was a little too hard on Alex Garland in the past, But I'm gonna give him a chance this time, and I'm so glad I did because y'all, this was I think 28 years later. After Sinners, 28 years later was definitely like my best film experience before I saw Hamnet. And I was so riveted the whole time I was in the theater. It's just such a well shot film. It's very unconventional for a horror film. And and I think the best part about that film is the father son storytelling, because the way that they wrap the story around the character of Spike, who played by Alfie Williams, is just exquisite. I thought we were coming there to get a story centering Aaron Taylor Johnson, but then he became the supporting character, and we went to Alfie Williams, who's even more compelling. And everything about the film just felt so heartfelt, in my opinion. And there's just like so many great sequences in that film. And also you have Ray Fiennes, like Ray Fiennes here, and he's like, like kind of like mad evil scientist kind of, but like not evil, but like he's giving those vibes. And it was just like really cool. And I love like how like the Bone Temple in the film like is set up, and that all the set pieces were just great. And I feel like Jodie Cromer did what she had to do, and then there was a lot of cameos in there as well. There's a lot of interesting stuff about that film, and I think I need to rewatch it. I really do. I haven't seen that film. I watched it twice in the theaters last year when I first saw it, but I haven't seen it in almost a year, honestly. Well, I mean, like, no, that film came out in like August, right? I think it came out like in August, maybe like June. So that's a lie. It's not almost a year, but it's coming up on a year. So I do need to rewatch that soon. But yes, this is one of my favorite films of the year. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. I give this like 6 out of 5 stars, honestly. Because like we don't have a lot of zombie material today that's like really of quality. And I'm so glad that the revamping of this IP was done at this level, because now I get to reinvest myself in stuff that I really had heart for. Like when I was in high school, I used to watch The Walking Dead all the time, and I used to like, love zombie lore all the time, and now like it's kind of dissipated, but we're back, and I'm happy about it. So thank you, Alex Garland, and thank you, Alfie Williams, and thank you, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and thank you everybody who's a part of it. Thank you, Nia DaCosta, because I did just see the Bone Temple and it was great, but I'll talk about that later. Okay. Moving on, we are going to talk about Plainclothes. So Plainclothes was actually one of the films that I watched at Sundance Film Festival 2025 with the online ticket. And it was my favorite film that I watched coming out of Sundance. I really, really love this film. It's a tale about, what I think I really loved about this film is that it's set in the 90s. It's set in the late 90s, and we don't get a lot of like late 90s representation, but I love late 90s representation. And it stars Tom Blythe, Russell Tovey, and Marissa Dizia. And I think Tom Blythe, what he's doing in this film is really unique in regards to like what his output has been. Obviously, you have seen Tom Blythe in A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which was a Hunger Games like prequel film. But then also like you've seen him like I think he is currently in like The People We Meet on Vacation or whatever that film is called. And so he's a few things here and there, but like I feel like Plainclothes is something that like he really really gave his all to, and felt like his character was really endearing in the film, and I love the storytelling that's going on. Obviously, it's like a queer storytelling about like people in the closet and like trying to come out, and like you have to live a lie basically in the 90s to a certain extent when you're queer, even though like the AIDS epidemic is kind of like subsided a little bit, but like there's just like a lot of nuances about the film that I thought were really great. And I'm just a sucker for like good gay food. Like I just love a good queer story, so that's a good queer story. I think the final 20 minutes of that film are the best pieces of that film, honestly. When he's fighting his uncle, like that's just amazing. How the film ends, perfect. So I give that film, honestly, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I mean, a 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I'm gonna give that a 5 out of 5 stars because I love that film. I actually need to rewatch that film soon. I think I need to like build a collection of all like good queer films, because like as a queer person, like you should have like all like good queer films. Like when I have kids, what am I gonna show them? Am I gonna show my kids straight films? I don't know, but we love Plainclothes in this house. Roofman. So Roofman was like one of the most unexpected film experiences that I had this year. Now, when I first saw the trailer for Roofman, obviously seeing like the icon Kirsten Dunst, I should say. I always say Kristen, but it's Kirsten. Apologies to her. But obviously seeing Kirsten Dunst and then seeing the icon Channing Tatum, like both leading a film together, brings out excitement in my body, right? Because like Bring It On is one of my favorite films ever. So obviously Kirsten Dunst always has a place in my heart, and every film that she's done since then has a place in my heart, except The Power of the Dog. I believe that she was in The Power of the Dog. Didn't like The Power of the Dog. But outside of that, love her. And then also Channing Tatum, like love Channing Tatum. Like I don't think people understand like Channing Tatum for like the youth of Gen Z, like if you were born in the late 90s, if you were born in the late 90s between like 1997 and 1999, those 3 years, like if you were born then, like Channing Tatum kind of like was like the film heartthrob of like your actual adolescence, like your elementary school years. And so like, and he's disappeared. Channing Tatum like has virtually disappeared. Like I feel like we haven't really spoke about Channing Tatum in like, the zeitgeist of pop culture, like ever since like he dated Zoe Kravitz. I feel like him and Zoe Kravitz dating was like the last time we really like spoke about him prior to Roofman coming out. And even with Roofman coming out, he hasn't really popped back into the scene. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that occurred then. I mean, obviously he was dating like Jessie J, but then like that was like that was like mid 2010s. But like him dating Zoe Kravitz was like late 2010s and like early 2000s kind of like when they're, all those bike photos that they got together, all of that. But then you have Channing Tatum, he's back out doing like real film. Like this is like a real film. All the reviews before it came out were like, this is like a serious film, all that stuff. But it was marketed more like as like a, happy-go-lucky like little rom-com film. And I think that kind of dissuaded a lot of people in regards to the film itself, in my opinion, but not me, because I went and saw that thing early. And I'm so glad I did because it was such a good film. And Roofman is my number 7 top film of the year because it's just that good. And it was such a perfect holiday film. It's what can I say that I love the most about Roofman without trying to be long-winded? I just love the chemistry that Kirsten Dunst and Channing Tatum have on screen with each other in this film. Channing Tatum, he is a heartthrob in this film. He is a heartthrob, and he's a heartthrob while playing a really bad person. Not a really bad person, but a really like just ain't shit person. Like somebody who's just really not worth anything. A thief, a liar, all of the above. A deadbeat. But like, he just makes it work. He just has that flair that's going on. And obviously like Derek Cianfrance, who is the director and the writer of the film, who also is the director and writer of Blue Valentine starring Ryan Gosling, which I love that film as well. So I was like, oh, we're in good hands. We're in good hands here. And we were in good hands. I think a nice touch on it too was Lakeith Stanfield. Lakeith Stanfield is doing really, really good in this film. He's a supporting role, but I feel like the dialogue, I wonder if he added to the dialogue or if it was written, his character was written how it was written, because I feel like that character that Lakeith Stanfield is playing in this film would have been a caricature if anyone else was behind the film, if Derek and Lakeith weren't behind that character, or if like Channing wasn't there either, because I feel like Channing and Lakeith's dynamic makes their like friendship in the film like realistic to a certain extent. So I have no notes on that film. I love that film. I give that film 4.5 out of 5 stars, but honestly, on a really good day, it's a 5 out of 5 stars. And I'm gonna make it my annual Christmas holiday rewatch. Like I'm pushing the holdovers. You're getting moved out the way, and Roofman is here to stay. F1. Okay, so F1 was also like one of the most surprising experiences. I want to say the most surprising experiences of the year, but I did not go into F1 believing that it was going to be good. I was like, Brad Pitt, you have had too many duds in the last like 2-3 years for me to really believe that you're going to put out a film that I'm going to walk away from being like, this was great. And I walked away from it being like, this was great, because it was great. Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, Kerry Condon, everybody a part of it. Javier Bardem. Everyone did what they needed to do. And I feel like the cinematography of this film is like really the highlight of the film. I wonder if this film will get nominated at the Oscars for cinematography. It should. I feel like the crash scene is like a perfect scene. There's a lot of expectations that I feel like the writers and the director of this film felt like the audience was going to have in regards to the film itself. And they subverted all of those. In like the best way possible. Like it was really kind of like a miracle film in some ways. It's also like a sports film to a certain extent, but a sports film that we haven't seen before. Obviously we've seen like car films. Like there's a lot of car films, obviously, but I feel like F1 really hasn't been somewhere that like you touch. And for it to be like titled F1, obviously like the branding's already coming into it. So if you're like kind of averse to F1 in some way, you kind of would have been like averse to the film. But I feel like everyone like once the first weekend round of people saw it, everyone's like, oh, let's go see F1. I told everyone in my life to go see it. And everyone who went and saw it were like, oh, that was so good. That was so good, because it is just that good. So, bravo to everyone a part of F1. They're talking about making a sequel to F1. Don't make a sequel, please. Like, can we just let certain things just be what they are and be good? Like, let certain things just be like that one-off thing in time that was good. Please, let's please do that. Oh, hi. Okay, and not like the city. Like every time I had to talk about this film, like I felt like I'm originally from California. So if you know Southern California, Ojai is a city in Southern California. And every time having to like speak about this film, I felt like I was talking about a city, but no. The film is called Ojai. It stars Molly Gordon, Logan Lerman, Geraldine Viswanathan, and it is directed and written by Sophie Brooks herself, with assistance from Molly Gordon, I believe, in the writing. This film was great. It's a rom-com. It's kind of like a new idea in a certain extent. Obviously, you have like, it starts off as like these people are kind of dating. They're kind of dating, and then the guy like kind of like dubs the girl who's played by Molly Gordon, and the guy's played by Logan Lerman. But then somehow, I can't really remember the full story right now thinking about it, because I did see this like film back in like maybe July. I saw this film in like July, I believe. But basically they get out to this like Airbnb place for like a date or something like that. Oh, that's what it was. I think he was coming to break up with her there. Was he? No, I don't even think they were supposed to be together. Really? I can't even remember. Like, I need to go rewatch it. I feel like this film was on Netflix. I'm doing a bad job at like recapping like what I like about this film, like by telling you that I don't really remember the premise of the film. But basically, they're out at this like Airbnb, and you know, they're having like a nice time, and the guy wants to break up with the character, Molly Gordon's character, and she's like, she kind of like crashes out, like she kind of really crashes out, and she like handcuffs him to the bed, and she's like, no, you're actually like not gonna leave this room until like you really like fall back in love with me. Now that sounds really crazy, right? But they end up like coming to, you know, we go through all these hijinks, and like the people we met along the way, her friends come out to the house, all this stuff, you know, neighbors, all this stuff that they encounter, X, Y, and Z. But by the end of it, it's like therapy for them. Like the craziness of her, like kind of like kidnapping him is like therapy for them in some ways. Now, my only gripe with this film is that it ended on like a vague note. I wish this film would have ended on a note of these two are now together. They now feel like they are together. It didn't end on that note, maybe because I feel like maybe they felt like it was a little too weird to have this story about this girl who like locks this guy to a bed and like forces him to be in love with her. Like maybe that's a little too weird, but in my opinion, they should have just went for it. It would have been nice. I like delusional rom-coms. Like a good rom-com sometimes has to be a little delusional. Like there has to be some things that are like, this would never happen in the real world. That's why it's good. Like it has to be fantasy, because like a lot of us we don't get the love that's in rom-coms. Many people don't get the love that's in rom-coms. So we want to feel like love is possible. Great love is possible. So why couldn't you do that? But I don't fault them for it. I still had a great time. It was really funny too. And I also think Logan Lerman, like it was kind of like his comeback film. So I think like 2025 had like a lot of comeback films. Obviously, for a lot of like early 2010 stars, in my opinion. So you had like Dylan O'Brien made his comeback, his like big comeback like last year. Now Logan Lerman made his like small minor comeback, and I hope that he like picks up some good other role that like has his name back in rotation again, because I think Logan Lerman did a great job in this film. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. Now, this is for my anime girlies. Now, I love anime. I'm not like a anime like fan. Like I wouldn't say that, because like I watch like maybe like 3 or 4 animes a year, right? I watch like 3 or 4 anime series a year. When I was in college and high school, I used to watch a lot more, but I kind of like fell off the wagon a little bit. But Demon Slayer is a staple, and I'm gonna keep watching Demon Slayer, obviously, because you know I gotta be there with my boy Tanjiro. I gotta be there with my boy Giyu. I gotta be there with Morichito, who's my favorite. I gotta be there with Tengen. I gotta be with Zenitsu, everyone. So obviously I was hyped and prepped to go watch Infinity Castle, and Infinity Castle did not disappoint. Now, I know a lot of people have like some gripes about anime like kind of like teetering over into the film world, rather than like having all of their arcs, their final arcs done in like series and like episodes. But I feel like this last Infinity Castle arc for the Demon Slayer manga is served justice with doing movies, because I think the second movie is going to be great, and I think the third movie is going to be even like just as great, right? I feel like the second movie has the potential to be better than Infinity Castle, this one that we just watched, right? Because the fights that are going to be in that film are going to be like crazy if they really animate it to the expectation that we have for them. Now, talking about this film, love this film. Obviously, you get the storylines between Zenitsu and his brother and their grandfather, so I love that, because Zenitsu honestly is like my second favorite character. And I've always had a special place in my heart for Zenitsu. Like Zenitsu honestly was my initial favorite character until we got introduced to Tokito Morichito. And so then now Tokito is now my favorite character, but Tokito's not really represented in this film, because he's going to be in the next film very much, and maybe not for good reasons. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but if you read the manga, you know what I'm talking about. So and then we have like Giyu, we have Giyu, Tanjiro, and Akaza. We have them going back and forth, and then we have like, you know, Giyu and Tanjiro executing Akaza in a way, and Akaza's backstory and all this stuff. I know there's a lot of jokes online about Akaza's backstory and people being like, why do we leave the fight to go to Akaza's backstory? I like that style, personally. I like you giving me like 10 minutes of fight and then you give me like 5 minutes of backstory. Like it kind of breaks it up a little bit because like it's just so much going on. And I feel like if you just gave us all the fight at one point, like it would just feel like you just threw it at us. Like I like how it's broken up. I know a lot of people don't because everybody just wants to see like boom boom pow 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 bang 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 pow 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 splash 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 splash. That's what's happening with like JJK right now. Like people don't want to just like get like the lore like episodes. They just want like all the fight scenes, and it's like baby, are we back in like prime Naruto Shippuden era where like everybody's mad about filler episodes? No, this is not even filler. This is not even filler. This is like pure canon. So all I have to say for Demon Slayer is that they did perfect. Obviously, it was a 5 out of 5 stars, but like I really don't think the rating for that matters because essentially it's just a TV show. It's not really a film. So I'll move on. The threesome. Okay, so the threesome was such a fun experience. I actually love this film. I rated this film very highly. It's written by Ethan Ogilvy, I believe is how you say his name. It's directed by Chad Hartigan, and it stars Zoe Doach, Jonah Hewer King, Ruby Cruz, Jabuki Young White, and Josh Sagara. My thoughts on this film, this is like a comfort film. Like when people talk about comfort films, my comfort film, like a film that you could watch and like you just have like, you have no stress on your mind. You could just watch blindly. You could just always have a good time when you watch this film. You don't have to think too hard. You don't have to feel too, in ways you don't want to feel. The threesome would be that. If the threesome is on streaming right now, I need to go watch it again. If it ever comes on streaming, I will be watching it because I love this film. It's a throuple film about basically like a throuple where the guy gets like both of the women pregnant, but he doesn't, you know, spoiler alert. However, I think the dynamics between Jonah Howard King and Zoe Dutch and Ruby Cruz are great in this film. I think Jonah is like really a good actor, and I know he hasn't had like that many big roles. Obviously, he was the prince in The Little Mermaid, and he's been in a few other things. Obviously, he was in I Know What You Did Last Summer, reboot. He's in things that like really aren't profound in a way. A lot of his roles aren't like big roles, but I would love it if like he just went along his career picking up these like small roles that gradually build in quality and then getting like a big role and like really like just like punching everyone in the face like, yeah, I've been here, now y'all see me. So I really want him to do that. Obviously, love Zoe Dutch. She's amazing in everything she does. I don't really feel like Zoe Dutch ever gives a bad performance in my opinion. I think Zoe Dutch does a lot of average films or projects, but I don't think she ever gives a bad performance. So like she came with it. I also love the actress who played her sister in this film. I think that's another thing. All the characters in this film are so realistic. Like I want to be friends with everybody who's in this film. I do. I do. Even Jabuki White's character, like, want to be friends with him. Ruby Cruz's character, want to be friends with her. Zoe Dutch's character, want to be friends with her. Jonah's character, want to be friends with him. And I think it's also like a Gen Z film. Like, it really feels like it relates to people who are 26 in the real world. Like, these are experiences that I could be having right now if I wanted to. I don't want to. I don't want to have the problems of having 2 baby mamas at one time. But, love the film regardless. You also have Josh Sagara here who's making a cameo. Now, if you don't know anything about me, you should know that Josh Sagara, anytime that he pops on the screen, I'm giving a thumbs up. Anytime Josh Sagara, if I'm saying his last name right, pops up on the screen, I'm giving a thumbs up because the charisma he just has, like he just has some charisma that's just like very unique. And I wish he was a movie star, but I feel like he's just a TV star. But I wish that he got like a TV role that's like really like prominent and like in like the culture. Like I feel like he just never getting a role that's like really, really big and flashy. But however, I loved him in this film. Obviously he knows how to play a douche very well, but he just knows how to play like, I'm kind of an asshole, but like I'm handsome and charming and kind of funny. Like, don't you want to feel bad for me? Don't you want to forgive me? Like that's what he does. He does, don't you want to forgive me? Don't you want me in your life? He does that so well. And I love that. I love that. So props to everyone in this film. I love this film. I'm going to rewatch it as soon as possible. Predator Killer of Killers. Okay, so now Predator Killer of Killers is written by Miko Robert Rutade, I believe is how you say his name, Dan Trachtenberg, and Jim Tomas, right? And then it's directed by Dan Trachtenberg and Joshua Wusong. Now, Dan Trachtenberg has been given the power and reins over the Predator IP, I believe, in modern day. And I'm so thankful he has because Predator Killer of Killers, like, literally has reinvigorated, like, okay, so, like, Prey reinvigorated Predator franchise. It did. Right, Prey is probably like one of the best. I would say Prey is #1 best Predator film in my opinion. Maybe you can put Predator 1 at the top, but then Prey is #2. Now, Predator Killer of Killers it builds on the lore that was established in the Prey film, which I love, and it's just as great. It's kind of like an anthology film in a sense. It's told in 4 acts. So it's done in like the first act, which deals with like a predator coming to Earth to fight a Viking woman, I believe. And then the second act is the predators coming to Earth to fight the like a samurai, and the third act is the predators coming to Earth to fight a World War II airshipman, right? And then the third act is like all of them like they're all captured together. So basically, like the predators come and they like, it's like that's what I love about this. It's like giving more lore to the predators. That's what I love about this. So basically, they're coming and they are acquiring these like warriors across the world, and they're hunters, they're predators, they're like the top apex like predator in the universe and all this stuff. But what we figure out is that if you kill one of the predator species, then the predators come and they like time freeze you. They freeze you, they cryo freeze you, and then like they want you to like come back to their planet and like battle it out, and like a big like gladiator version of like everybody who's killed our species basically. And so I love this a lot because it ends on a note that leads into Predator Badlands, which I'm about to talk in a second. But it's exquisite. The animation is so great. I love gory animation. I love when animation is rated R. We don't get a lot of that. Obviously, anime is like one of the only places you can go for that. And I love that they give it to us here. And I think all of the different like set pieces with each arc are just like perfect and so pretty. And so I really want more of this. I wish we could get like another animated Predator film. Who knows if we're going to get that. I feel like we're going to get another live action film. However, regardless of whichever direction they go, I'm with it. So Predator Badlands also came out last year. And so this was written by Patrick Allison, Dan Trachtenberg, and Jim Tomas, and then solely directed by Dan Trachtenberg himself, right? And so obviously it's building off of Predator Killer of Killers, because everybody who's seen Predator Killer of Killers already knows like more lore about I think they're called the Yautja is their species name. And so then we actually go to the perspective of a Yautja in Predator Badlands, right? It stars Elle Fanning, and then it stars Demetrius Schuster, Kola Matanigi, and he is playing our lead role character. I can't remember what the lead role character's name. Oh well, I'm sorry. But the lead Yautja's character, as they try to go, and he tries to go like earn his stripes, right? Because he's trying to go earn his stripes. He goes to this random like planet that's like one of the most vicious planets in the universe. I can't remember the name of the planet right now. I'm kind of failing at my notes, but stay with me. And then while he's there, he runs into a synth from Earth who's played by Elle Fanning, as she's trying to get back to her base. But she also has like a twin sister who's there, who's also played by Elle Fanning, who's evil, and they're trying to capture the beast that the Yautja is trying to capture. And like it's just like all teams meet at the center of the plot, and then like it's a lot of clashing that goes on, and then you see what happens at the end of the clashing. He kills the monster he wants. He comes back to the prime like Yautja planet and like kills his father, and then at the end of that, his mother's coming. Now I feel like his mother is going to be the same person who was at the end of Predator Killer of Killers. I know it's supposed to be a man at the end of Killer of Killers, but I think it's going to be a woman as well. And so maybe like that's how the Prey and Predator Killer of Killers and Predator Badlands storyline like all come together. So I'm hoping that's what happens, but we'll see what happens. Friendship. Okay, so I never saw it for Tim Robinson until I saw this film. Friendship is written by Andrew DeYoung and directed by Andrew DeYoung. I believe it might be Andrew DeYoung's like feature film, if I'm correct. Maybe I'm incorrect on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, it's starring Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd and Kate Mara, and I love this film. Honestly, I think Friendship was the first film of last year, and I saw this in the summer, that I audibly laughed in the theater. Now, if you know me, I sit like a statue when I'm in the movies. I sit like a statue. I'm not moving. I'm not talking. I'm barely breathing. I don't eat. I'm not drinking. I only drink. My only rule to get a drink is if the film is over 3 hours. If the film's over 3 hours, I'm going to need something to slurp on after like 2.5 hours, right? But the film is not over 3 hours. I don't need nothing. I can sit still. I don't have to pee. My bladder is strong. I sit still. But in this film, I let out a few chuckles. I did. There was a lot of guys there was a lot of like frat boy, like OG frat boys in my opinion. Like there was a lot of guys who just came in like groups. There's like groups of guys who like I felt like were like frats, or like how do y'all all know each other? Like you had to be frats, you had to play on teams or something like that. Who were just in my theater, but they all were laughing. They were having a good time. I was having a good time because the film was funny, and I love Tim Robinson now. I also started watching The Chair Company, and I finished The Chair Company, which stars Tim Robinson, which I think is genius and hilarious and brilliant. And so I'm really on board with Tim Robinson. This film has made me a Tim Robinson fan. Kate Mara is doing great things in this film. It's just funny, like all the dynamics that happen in this film. Obviously, you have like the garage scene. You have the whole entire house party sequence, and then you have the guy who's in the garage scene, and he's like antagonizing Tim Robinson's character. That's hilarious. Tim Robinson like trying to break into the house. All of that stuff is hilarious. All the stuff with Tim Robinson at his job, that's hilarious. All the stuff with Jack D. Glazer, I believe, is playing his son in the film. All that stuff is hilarious. Everything about this film is hilarious in my opinion. Even the ending is hilarious to a certain extent. So I was like thoroughly satisfied with this film. I did give this film like 3.5 out of 5 stars because it's just not like a magical film, a great film, but it is a very solid film. It is reminds me of like, you know, prime Judd Apatow era of like comedies, like drama comedy. It's not even drama. It's not even a dramedy. It's just like a pure comedy. So like, I think it was a little bit of nostalgia that was seeping in my heart while I was watching it, but it was good nostalgia. So I am very satisfied with Friendship. Bugonia. Okay, now Bugonia is like one of the most talked about films of the year. As you know, like it stars Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, and Aiden Delbes. It's written by Will Tracy and Jong Joon Hwan, and directed by none other than himself, Mr. Yorgos Lanthimos. What is my history with Yorgos Lanthimos? I've seen all of Yorgos Lanthimos films except The Lobster, I believe, which is kind of bad on me because I kind of like pride myself as like a Colin Farrell lover, and I haven't seen The Lobster, so I need to watch The Lobster because I know a lot of people who don't really like Yorgos Lanthimos films really love The Lobster. I need to go watch it. I remember when The Lobster was like back in the theaters, like maybe a year ago. Maybe it was like maybe it was like end of 2024, The Lobster was back in the theaters, and I wanted to go see it, but I just didn't get around to go seeing it for some reason. Shame on me. I think I really wanted to go see it because that was like the year, it was 2024. Cause I think that was the year when Banshees of Inisherin were in the Oscars race, which was like early 2024. And I was like, dang, I need to go see like all Colin Farrell stuff because like I did not like Banshees of Inisherin. And I was like, I need to make sure that like this is Colin Farrell's like worst role, right? It is, right? Cause I needed some fuel to fuel like my hate for Banshees of Inisherin, right? You know, like I had to be a good hater. But Yorgos Lanthimos, Begonia, this is his 4th feature film, I believe, or his 6th. It's his 6th feature film. I believe this is Yorgos' sixth feature film now. I walk away from all Yorgos Lanthimos films like being satisfied, honestly. Even Kinds of Kindness, which I didn't think was like great, I was satisfied because like it just felt like I do like films that are like basically like acting exercises. Like it's just like a film creating exercise for everyone involved. I feel like Kinds of Kindness was just like a film creating exercise for like Yorgos, for all the stars, for everybody in the cast and crew, all that stuff. And it wasn't sucky to me. It just didn't have any purpose, in my opinion, which is not like, you know, a nail in a coffin or for like a film, but it is like, I can't really like feel anything about this. I can't say you're a good film. So I would say that's one of his worst. Obviously I loved Poor Things because I really am infatuated with Emma Stone to a certain extent. The Favorite, love The Favorite. I am really a fan of the Killing of the Sacred Deer. I really like that. I think that was like that was a film that kind of like put Barry Keoghan like in like the mainstream light, and it was before like people started thinking like he was a bad actor and he started doing like very, very quirky, like, you know, before he started doing the Saltburns and all that stuff. I really liked it. I think I saw that film like right when it came out. I was like early college, so I was really, really enthralled with that film. Maybe it was like late high school, honestly, but I love that film because obviously I love Colin Farrell too. I think the ending of that film is really great. It's really just exhilarating and really like eerie and scary. I think that's like one of the best like eeriness that like Yorgos has done. But we're here to talk about Begonia. Begonia, I like Begonia. Begonia was cool, but it was nothing more, nothing less. It was a fun time. I think Emma Stone's, her character work in this film, it's going great. What really connected with me about Begonia is like the nihilistic undertones of this film. You know, on my bad days, I'm a pure nihilist. On my good days, I'm a subtle nihilist, right? But I'm also like an extreme optimist as well. And a realist, all of those things, right? I'm just giving myself all these characteristics, but it really like fed into my like my nihilism, and I think it really validated that. And I think like I would like more storytelling to like, you know, do that, because I think there's just so much storytelling that wants you to feel so hopeful and so grateful for the world and humankind and all that stuff. But like, you know, humans are, you know, a very, very odd species. We do very, very odd stuff, and then it makes me question like, what is the value of humanity, honestly, right? And I think this film tries to ask that, while also trying to like hit on that political conversation. Apologies. You know, people be blowing my line up. They want to talk to me. Ooh, okay, no, that's what I was saying. Yeah, Bugonia. Yeah, it like feeds into my nihilism. I love that. I think Emma Stone's like her whole shtick in this film, her whole characterization is perfect. 5:30, the whole bit about 5:30. The whole like, you know, Good Luck Babe, Chappell Roan song. I think The film being set in Atlanta, I love because Atlanta's a city that doesn't really get a lot of shine. And so, as somebody who lives in Atlanta, that's a little lore about me. Seeing all the spots around the city that I like see on a regular in a film, it does something to me. It does feel a little heartfelt because I feel like, the LA girlies and New York girlies always get that stuff. The Chicago girlies, they get that stuff. The girlies in Europe and London, they get that stuff. But we don't really get that stuff out in the city. And so I really love that about this film. Now, the alien stuff about this film, I was like, okay, this is a little too over the top. There's a little too much out there. Like, the character design, I get it, like, but it was just like, okay, like, I guess we're here for the ride. We only got 20 minutes later. I'll just let y'all do the whole, like, little alien, like, set design and all this shit that y'all got going on. All the blood and, like, gory-esque type of, like, skinny, like, organ, like, tissue, like, fabrics and walls and, like, structures that these aliens have. I'll give it to y'all. Y'all can go ahead and do that, but it was just a fine film. I'm not very high on Begonia, even though I just did give it a lot of props. But I am like, there's a lot of things going on in Begonia that are like really, really unique and I think done very well. And that's more than I can say for a lot of other films. So I give this film a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but really it's like a 3 out of 5 stars, but on a good day it's a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Bring Them Down. Okay, so this was like one of the first films I saw in 2025, I believe. So this film stars Christopher Abbott, who I love, Barry Keoghan, Cole Meany, and Susan Lynch. It is written by Chris Andrews, Jonathan Harugan, and directed by Chris Andrews as well. Basically, this film, it's like set in the UK and England, I believe, like far out. These are sheep herders. There's some beef going on between Christopher Abbott's family and Barry Keoghan's family. Barry Keoghan is the son of his family, while Christopher Abbott is the son of his family, but he's like older, way older than Barry Keoghan's character. And like Christopher Abbott's character has some history with Barry Keoghan's mother, I believe, or like stepmom. That's his stepmom. I can't really remember the whole premise of the story, but basically they start feuding. Like they start feuding over like sheeps and over like land, but then over like some petty other stuff, right? There's just a lot of set pieces in this film that I really loved. There's also a lot of sequences in this film that I really loved and a lot of direction that like caught my eye and was really, really unique in my opinion. So you have like that one scene, if you've seen this film, you know there's a scene where, so there's a point in this film where we get two perspectives of one scene, right? We get it from Christopher Abbott's perspective and we get it from Barry Keoghan's perspective, which is when Christopher Abbott went to Barry Keoghan's family's house with his gun, I believe, in the middle of the night. Now, we didn't know that Barry Keoghan's character had saw him, and then we see later on in the film from Barry Keoghan's character's perspective that he saw him. But then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on in this film. Oh my gosh, I just remembered so much that goes on in this film. There's a lot that happens in that film, honestly. But I did love that film, and I just love Christopher Abbott. So I give this film like a 4 out of 5 stars. I was feeling good. I really don't know if I would give it to him now. I'm not going to rewatch that film. Maybe I will rewatch that film because Christopher Abbott was in The Testament of Ann Lee. So maybe I'll rewatch that film just before I go see Ann Lee next week. But for now, I'm just going to keep it at a 4 out of 5 stars. No Other Choice. Okay, so No Other Choice, obviously written by none other than himself, Mr. Park Chan-wook, and Lee Kyung-mi, and directed by Park Chan-wook. I feel like it's an adaptation, so that's why like Lee Kyung-mi is on there. It stars Lee Byung-hun and Song Yi-jin, as well as their entire ensemble cast. I had a great time with No Other Choice. I do struggle sometimes with Asian films. It's kind of like a hump I have to get over. It's so interesting how like I love anime a lot, but then when it comes to like Asian films, it's like it's very hit or miss with me, a lot of Asian films. And I have to find a way to get over that. It's not the subtitle stuff. It's just like the structure that a lot of Asian directed films, or like Asian produced and directed films, I should say, and star, like pure Asian films, they just like they're made in a certain way that's kind of like I don't want to say like gimmicky, or like I don't want to say like very hijinksy, but like, or like satirical, but there's just like a certain format that they use when they make their films that kind of like pulls me out of their like feeling like it's reality or like real or taking it too seriously. And so I struggle with that, but with No Other Choice, I did not struggle with that at all. And so I really had a fun time when I watched No Other Choice. I didn't have an issue with it. I thought Lee Byung-hun is great in this film. I thought Song Yi-jin is great in this film as well. I thought the actors who played their kids are great. The set pieces are nice. It's a lot of pretty woods, and it's a lot of, I think the whole cliffside scene where he does the assassination on the cliffside That's wonderful. All the allegories and like messaging in regards to like how we currently are utilizing AI in industrial businesses, as well as like how we treat nature today. Very spot on. I agree with all of it. So I'm glad he got away with all of the murders he committed in the film, which sounds bad, but I wanted him to win. I did want him to win. It was just a very relatable film in a lot of ways. And so, bravo to everyone a part of it, honestly. I give this film about a 4 out of 5 stars. Nothing less, nothing more, honestly. So I was very satisfied with it. I got what I wanted from it. And I am excited to see whatever Park Chan-wook does in the future. Thunderbolts. Okay, so Thunderbolts was my favorite superhero film of last year, I believe. Written by Eric Pearson, Joanna Kahlo, and Kurt Busiek. And it's directed by Jake Schreier. It stars Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Louis Pullman, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Hannah John Kamen, and everyone else who's in the film. I love it. I think the character of Yelena in the MCU is like just gold. Like, I feel like we don't really have a lot of like characters in the MCU who are just gold now. And I think the character of Yelena is just like pure gold. Florence Pugh, she really just takes over that character. It's an essence that's not replicated across the entire universe of the MCU and can't ever be replicated, in my opinion, even though that this character of Yelena Belova is like kind of like a replicated character from Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson. She took the character and she really made it her own, and I really love that. And every single movie that she's been in, whether it's Black Widow or project, I should say, Hawkeye series, and then now Thunderbolts, she's been excellent. I'm excited to see her in Doomsday. I want to see what they do with her character. I love the little slight romance that Yelena's character in this film had with Sentry, Louis Pullman's character. I love how Sebastian Stan is here again. Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier is electric as well. He's one of the remaining OGs of the MCU, so I'm glad he's always back here. Don't know what they're going to do with him in Doomsday. I feel like they're going to off him in Doomsday. I feel like they're going to off everyone in Doomsday, but we'll wait till Doomsday to see what happens to everyone, right? The dynamics between Yelena and the Red Guardian, David Harbour's character, perfect in this film. I think it's just really a great Yelena film, and I really wish they would give Florence Pugh more reign over the MCU. I think, in a time where people want to see women-led projects and a women-led superhero stories, Florence Pugh, she got it. So bravo to all of them. And I'm excited to see what comes next. So from like all the cast members in regards to the Thunderbolts, I don't think there's one person a part of the Thunderbolts that I really felt like, don't really care about you. Even Ghost, they got Ghost to be rehabbed, the character of Ghost to be seen as a likable character. I loved Ghost in the Thunderbolts. I even loved Wyatt Russell's character. I can't even remember his name right now, but he's like the false Captain America. I can't remember what that false Captain America guy's name is, the character, but I think how they revamped his character and not redeemed him. It's not really a redemption arc, but they did bring us in on his character more, and I do have a little bit of sympathy towards his character a little bit more, even though I know he did some heinous stuff in Falcon and the Winter Soldier series that we're never going to forget. So if they do off him in Doomsday, good for that. Now, I hope before they off him in Doomsday, they do give him kind of like a full arc. Maybe he does right by his baby mama, things like that. Who knows? We will see. So, Thunderbolts, loved. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's great. It was the best superhero film of 2025, by the way. It also is the best MCU movie of 2025, by the way. It might be the best MCU movie of the decade so far, but we'll talk about that when we talk about Doomsday at the end of the year. The Ballad of Wallace Island. Now, this film was very controversial. A lot of people don't like this film. A lot of people hate this film, but I'm here to tell you right now, I had a good ass time in the theaters when I saw this film. It's just such a good 2-hour long romantic dramedy. Not dramedy, but dramedy, romantic dramedy, I would say. It's a romance film, it's a drama, but it's also a comedy. It's written by Tom Basden and Tim Key. It's directed by James Griffith. It stars Tom Basden himself as the character of Herb. It stars Tim Key himself as Charles. And it stars Carey Mulligan and Sion Clifford. I loved everyone in this film. I love all the characters. I think the dialogue of this film is just perfect. It's just perfect. I think the way this film ends, it's just perfect. It's so heartfelt. It's so sweet. That's what it is. This is the sweetest film that I watch, I feel of 2025. But I had a great time. I would rate this high. I'll tell anybody to go watch it. It's a lovely film. If you want just something that's just soft, you can watch it. It's kind of lighthearted, but it's still heartfelt. It has a little bit of heartbreak in it. It's isolated storytelling. It's British accent, so who doesn't love a little British accent when you're trying to get a little sweet and cuddly and funny, right? So thumbs up for The Ballad of Wallace Island. Black Bag. Okay, so Black Bag, literally, literally, Black Bag was like talked about at the beginning of last year as like the starting off 2025 like in the best way possible. This film is starting off 2025 in the best way possible. It's gonna set the tone for the whole year. If films could be just as good as Black Bag, then we're going somewhere. That did not happen. That did not happen. Black Bag really didn't happen. Nobody's talking about Black Bag today. I'm sorry, like nobody is. Black Bag starring Michael Fassbender, Cate Blanchett, Ray J. John Page, Naomi Harris, and Marisa Abela, right? Written by David Koepp and directed by Steven Soderbergh himself. It's not really talked about today. It's a good film though. It is a good film. It's an espionage thriller. It's like a whodunit film at the same time. I liked it a lot. I think everybody did what they had to do. The third act is very wonky. As I told you at the beginning of this video, a lot of bad third acts in 2025. The third act in this film is very wonky. However, biggest highlight of this film is Marisa Abela. She just came to do what she does always on the show industry, and that is act her ass off. We're not going to acknowledge Marisa Abela's involvement in the Amy Winehouse biopic. She did not do that. That did not happen. That was a different universe. We are in this universe where that did not happen, okay? But what did happen is her role as Yasmin in the industry, and what did happen is her role in Black Bag. So bravo to Marisa Abela and her 2 projects, and hopefully she has better choices in the future. That's all we can ask for, right? So, moving on. The Assessment. Okay, so The Assessment is written by Neil Gareth Cos, Dave Thomas, John Donnelly, and is directed by Fleur Fortune, starring Elizabeth Olsen herself, Himesh Patel, and Alicia Vikander. So this film is very controversial, I feel like. I feel like some people think this film is very controversial because of what happens at like the end of the second act of this film. And I won't spoil it, but there's something that like I feel like a lot of people would feel like a little uncomfortable about. And I didn't feel uncomfortable about it. I just love apocalyptic storytelling. I mean, not even apocalyptic. I love dystopian storytelling, y'all. I really do have an infatuation with dystopian storytelling. I just feel like I feel like it's kind of like a yearning of wanting to know like what our future will be. Like it's a yearning of wanting to know what our future would be, and dystopian storytelling scratches that itch. It like scratches that itch, like, ooh, maybe this will be our future. Maybe this is how it will go. Especially when it's like unique ideas. And I don't know if this was based off a book or not, but I really enjoyed it. I think Elizabeth Olsen, she's doing great as she always does, especially when she's playing a mother role. She just came really like she really makes me empathize with like motherhood in ways that a lot of people can't do. So shout out to her. Himesh Patel is here. He's doing a great job. And then you have Alicia Vikander, who's also doing great. Also, I don't really recall ever like really like witnessing Alicia Vikander. I just haven't seen a lot of Alicia Vikander films. Sorry, wannabe cinephile moment. I haven't seen a lot of Alicia Vikander films. The only time I really conceptualized who Alicia Vikander was when I watched the queer film that came out like 2023 or like early 2024, Fire Island. When I watched Fire Island and they have the Alicia Vikander scene. Do y'all remember the Alicia Vikander scene?
You couldn't get Marissa Tomei, but you got Alicia Vikander?
I told you I didn't want to play.
That's actually the problem with Hollywood. It's people like you who forget about Marissa Tomei, but they remember Alicia Vikander.
Okay, you don't, that's fine. If you do, that's great. But basically, I love The Assessment. I thought it was a really great film. I liked how it ended. I kind of would have wanted a sequel, but I don't think we're going to get a sequel to that. Speaking of dystopian films, let's talk about Anniversary. Now, Anniversary came out last fall. I believe it came out in October, and I had a great time with Anniversary. It was just really, really good dystopian storytelling food, y'all. It's written by Laurie Rosani Gambino and Jan Komasa, and it's directed by Jan Komasa as well. Stars Diane Lane, Kyle Chandler, Madeline Brewer, Zoe Doach, McKenna Grace, Phoebe Devinar, and Dylan O'Brien himself. I think everyone in this film is doing amazing. I had the time of my life. I know a lot of people don't like this film. When I went on Letterboxd to see what people thought about this film, which like I don't go on Letterboxd to look at other, like to really get an opinion on the things I like. I go on Letterboxd to see like what are the streets saying? Like what are the pretentious people saying? What are the people who just want to go to the movies to be happy about stuff saying? What are the people who are miserable saying, right? People were miserable about this film. People do not like this film, but I don't care. I love this film. And maybe it's the Dylan O'Brien of it all. I love Dylan O'Brien. Twinless is like my favorite film of 2025. And so like Dylan O'Brien like is the star of Twinless. And so him being the star here, and he's doing a great job at being a douchebag, at being like somebody who like brings in like, you know, an era of fascism into the world. He like did a stellar job, even though I know it's not a good thing to like brag about, like emulating such a figure, but he does a stellar job here. I think McKenna Grace is doing a stellar job here too. I think Diane Lane is doing a great job here. Diane Lane has actually been presenting at all of the major awards this like award season, which I thought was like neat and nice because like I would want everyone from this film to be getting the recognition. But the fact that, I mean, like, also she's like a legend, so maybe that's why she's getting like, you know, the ability to walk out on stage. But I would hope that like people have saw her performance in this film and been like, hey, let's get her like out into like the spotlight a little bit more. Kyle Chandler's doing great here as well. I think Kyle Chandler is literally in The Rip, which I literally just watched this morning, I believe. I didn't like The Rip. But I do like Anniversary. And I think Kyle Chandler and Dylan O'Brien have a scene in this film that's so good. Something about fatherhood and son storytelling, like stories in film when done right, just really hit deep with me. And it's weird because I don't have a father. I don't have a father. So maybe that's why it hits deep for me. Maybe like it's like a gap in my experience that I'm able to fantasize about and I can just connect to. So I love that scene, but overall I love the film as well. I want to rewatch this film, honestly. It's just so good. McKenna Grace is going to be in the new Hunger Games film later on this year. So we will be talking about her again. But when we talk about her again, remember what I said about this film right here, okay? The Phoenician Scheme. Okay, so I'm not a Wes Anderson guy. Obviously, this film is written by Wes Anderson and Ramona Coppola. It's directed by Wes Anderson. I'm not a Wes Anderson guy. I just got into Wes Anderson. Got into Wes Anderson. I've been watching Wes Anderson since, I believe, either Grand Budapest Hotel or The French Dispatch, whichever one had Timothée Chalamet. I can't remember off the top of my head. You see, I'm not really a big Wes Anderson guy. And I've seen like, you know, the Tenenbaums, and I've seen like French Dispatch, and I've seen like a few other of his films. But I didn't really start liking Wes Anderson until I saw Asteroid City. Asteroid City. Asteroid City was really what got me to be like, oh, Wes Anderson clicks in my brain. And The Phoenician Scheme, I loved off rip. I think the biggest highlight of The Phoenician Scheme is Michael Cera. Michael Cera's character in this film is hilarious. Everything having to do with Michael Cera's character in this film, hilarious. I'll rewatch it just for Michael Cera. Put Michael Cera on our screen, please. Like people don't cherish Michael Cera like I do. Have you seen The Adults? Have you gone and seen The Adults? Because I've seen The Adults. You should go see The Adults because Michael Cera is great in that film as well. And I love The Adults. And I didn't love The Phoenician Scheme, but I love Michael Cera in The Phoenician Scheme. So go see it just for that. Ballerina. Okay, like Ballerina. So this is like another John Wick. This is a John Wick spinoff film. Obviously, it stars Ana de Armas, Keanu Reeves, and Gabrielle Byrne. Written by Shay Haddon and Derek Kolstad and directed by Lynn Wiseman themselves. What are my thoughts on this? Like really simple thoughts on this, obviously, because like John Wick films don't really have like, I know they're known for their story, but it's not really a film about story. You come to see the fights, and Ballerina had like some really cool fights. I feel like Ballerina has like better fight sequences than majority of the John Wick films. Like, that's just honest to God truth from me. So I love this. Also, I'm an Ana de Armas like hater, I would say. I don't really want to say hater because I don't even give her that much energy, but I am not enthralled by Ana de Armas. The only roles by Ana de Armas that I like are in Knives Out, the first one, which I think is the best Knives Out still because she is doing great work in that film, and I think that film works for her type of acting. And Ballerina. I think she's doing great in Ballerina. I think the story around Ballerina is great. I hope there's a sequel to Ballerina with the little girl as like, you know, trying to get her revenge on Ana de Armas' character. We could do anything with that. You know, bring Keanu Reeves back in if you want to. But I had no issues with this. I know there's some people who are like pretentious about the John Wick world. And they're trying to say like Ballerina is sucky. It's not sucky. Ballerina was really, really great. And I had a great time in the theaters for this type of film. So those are my thoughts on that. Mickey 17. Mickey 17 might be like the most disappointing film of the year for me, if I'm being honest. I don't know if I've said that about another film, but if I did say something else was the most disappointing film of the year, then that means Mickey 17 is down there with it as well. Now, we are talking about like my favorite films of the year. We're not talking about my least favorite of the films yet, but it is one of my favorite films of the year still, I think. I love Robert Pattinson's performance in this film. I love Steve Yeun's performance in this film. I love Naomi Ackie's performance in this film. I like what Toni Collette is doing. I don't really like what Mark Ruffalo is doing. I think Mark Ruffalo is giving a horrible Trump impression. I don't know what they were trying to do with that. I think the story falls flat in the third act. Bong Joon-ho, please go back to the storyboard. The next thing that you're doing, please think about it thoroughly. Please think about all the political things you want to put in it, and please make sure you hit them to a T. Because that's where the failings of this film were. There's just like a lot of like subplots that were just like, why do we add that in there if we don't really want to flesh that out? So I'm not high on it, but I'm not really low on it. So I'm just gonna leave it here. I gave it about a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The History of Sound. Yeah, so this film was written by Ben Shattuck, directed by Oliver Hermanus, stars Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor himself. Now, If you don't know, I am a major Paul Mescal fan. Anything Paul Mescal is in, I love. Outside of Foe, do not watch Foe, as I said in my Hamnet video. Otherwise, Paul Mescal is a stellar. Anything he's a part of, I love. I think it's good. I think he just is a great offerer of acting ability to the world. Now, I like Josh O'Connor as well. If you don't know, there's kind of like a little like feud between like Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor, like fans online, like at least on Twitter, like back in like 2023, I believe, maybe 2024, it grew because they're kind of like in the same lanes and like in certain ways. So you have like your strong like Paul High fans and you have like your big like Josh fans, and like it was kind of like a feud of like who has the better filmography and the better craft. Now, I will always go to Paul's side in that conversation, but I love how this film brought these two people who were like great friends in real life. There's no real feud brewing in between them. It's just like online chatter, right? But they came together to make this story, which is a very sweet story. As I already told you, I like good queer storytelling. I think it's a solid queer storytelling. Obviously, it's just like, repressed, you can't be together, and then like it leads you to like peril endings. Paul Mescal's character ends up very sad, alone, depressed, and quiet, as they all do, as every single character that Paul Mescal plays, right? But this was a solid film for me. Honestly, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I liked it. It was a sweet film. I like sweet films sometimes. Sometimes I don't need too much from the film. I think there's a great set pieces in this film. I think there's like racial aspects and like the period timeline that's trying to work within. I think it really hit on a lot of notes from that time in very, nice, delicate ways, in my opinion. Obviously, it's very like Heated Rivalry-esque. Like if you've seen Heated Rivalry, it's very like one of the boys is bisexual, one of them is gay. The one who's gay like can't really hide it. But then like obviously this like a very dark turn because Josh O'Connor's character like unalives himself. But all of that happens. I liked it. I know a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people find it very boring. They find it very like, what are we here for? But I knew what I came for, just to see Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor on my screen acting. And I got that. And they were acting very well. And the story was well. So, I'm satisfied. I don't know about y'all, but I'm satisfied. So I give this film a 4 out of 5 stars. It's going to stay there. Splitsville. Okay, Splitsville was one of like the most talked about like rom-coms of the year. I liked Splitsville. It's written by Michael Angelo Covino and Kyle Marvin, directed by Michael Angelo Covino. It stars Dakota Johnson, Adria Arjona, Kyle Marvin, and Michael Angelo Covino himself. Splitsville was cool. I feel like Splitsville is just, this always happens with Dakota Johnson films for me, honestly. It's always just missing something. There's always like something missing with Dakota Johnson films. And I don't know if it's her being in the films, because it's not. Because A Bigger Splash is the only film that I've seen by Dakota Johnson that I feel like is like a great film, that there's nothing wrong with this film. I love A Bigger Splash, directed by Luca Guadagnino, not the original one from all the way back when. But Splitsville, it's cool. It's very funny. I found Splitsville's premise to be very funny. Two couples separated, trying to open their, marriages, and how that intertwines and how they interlock with each other and things like that. I thought it was kind of like a cop-out at the end, how like everybody just comes back to each other at the end of the day. But maybe it was a little sweet. I think a lot of the side characters are the real highlight of this film. I think all the various like side characters and ensemble actors are really like the highlight here. They do the cardinal sin in this film. If you didn't know, let me bring you in on some of the wannabe cinephile lore. The cardinal sin for film with me: prosthetic penises. If you have a prosthetic penis shown in your film, you are immediately docked 10 points. You are docked 10 points immediately. The only film that has a prosthetic penis that's blunt and in your face that I allow is the prosthetic penis on Samson the Zombie in 28 Years Later. That is it. Anyone else, you're corny. Why? Because why do men have like cock shame? Like, I don't even know if you can say that on YouTube, but why do men have shame surrounding their genitalia? It doesn't make sense to me. And if the character in the film has to have a large appendage, cast somebody with a large appendage. Like, is there a shortage of that? Like, is there really a shortage of that? Are there people who just really don't have like large appendices, like, and who can act? But also people, some people are growers, not showers. So I'm like, you can still say somebody has a large appendage as like their character, persona in a film. And like, it's not just like, hanging 8 inches on soft. Like, and that's what they tried to do in this film, and it just really didn't make sense for me. I get it. It was funny, but then when you show the prosthetic, it's like, fantasy is ruined. Fantasy ruined. And also I'm like, you as an actor, why can't you show yourself? Like, women have to do that all the time. Women have to show themselves naked, fully naked all the time. Why can't men do that? It really just pisses me off. But I digress. Caught Stealing. Okay, so Caught Stealing, written by Charlie Huston, directed by Darren Aronofsky. I think this was like Darren Aronofsky's like return to directing this year. It's starring Austin Butler, Regina King, Zoe Kravitz, Matt Smith. I like this film. I was very satisfied with this film. I know it's very hit or miss for a lot of people. A lot of people feel like this film was very stupid. I like this film. I liked all the plot twists that occurred. Bad Bunny is also in this film, who I love. I think Austin Butler, he's very charismatic in this film. I think Zoe Kravitz is a great, love interest in this film, even though she does get got in the film very early on, which kind of surprised me. And then you have Matt Smith doing like this weird little, like, I don't really know what's going on with Matt Smith. I'm not really high. I don't know how to feel about Matt Smith. I really don't, because every film he's in, I'm kind of like, why are you here? Or I'm kind of like, I wish it was somebody else in your role. But then every TV role he does, I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, you're perfect for that. So I'm like, maybe he's just not like a film star. Maybe like Matt Smith needs to stay like on TV and not like try to be in film. But who am I to check him and what checks he gets? However, like Regina King is like great here. Regina King is great in everything she does. We haven't seen Regina King in a lot of films due to like her personal life, but I mean, a lot of films lately, I should say, due to her personal life. But however, this was like her return to the screen, in my opinion, and I loved it. She's doing great here. She is like a bad cop, and she's a corrupt cop in this film, and I liked that twist. I thought that twist was nice. So overall, I'm very satisfied. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. If somebody hates this film, I'm not gonna hate on them. You could hate this film. I can see how you could hate this film. I think the Laura Dern like cameo was stupid. Can Laura Dern stop doing cameos? Can we stop doing cameos, Laura Dern? Can we like do like actual characters and like actually good films, like actual good films? Because when we talk about the worst films, we're gonna talk about Laura Dern in one of the worst films of the year as well. But I digress. A Nice Indian Boy. Now, this film stars Karan Soni, Jonathan Groff, and Sunita Mani. It's written by Eric Randall and Madhuri Shekhar, I believe, and directed by Roshan Sethi. I love this film. I believe I saw this film like late spring. I believe I saw this film like May, I believe. It was very nice. I love Jonathan Groff. Anything Jonathan Groff is in, I love. Jonathan Groff, he's just very charismatic. I just love seeing him on the screen. He's like really electric. He's just a great actor, honestly. And it's because he's like such a theater star. Like he's such a theatrical actor that when he comes to film, he just knows how to translate that over very well. The same way that like people like Denzel Washington know how to do that. I feel like Jonathan Groff knows how to do that. And I wish he had more like screen time like in our TVs rather than like just like in the theaters. However, hey, can't get what we want in this life. I think Karan Soni, he's doing great in this film as well. Both of them have great chemistry. I found the storytelling to just be like very plain to a certain extent. Like there's nothing unique about it. I don't really like Introvert. I don't like Introvert character arc being like the centerpiece of like a film. I'm sorry. I just don't like identify with like introverts. I don't sympathize with introverts a lot. And so like you have Karan Soni's character who's kind of like an introvert to a certain extent in this film, but he's funny. I think Jonathan Groff's character is funnier, but then it's like, what is that me saying about that? A film full of Indian characters and the one white character I'm gravitating to the most. I don't know if that's, bad on my part or not, but I think everybody in this film was doing great. I think it's a perfectly fine film. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. It could be a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't really care. I had a good time. Freaky Tales. Okay. So Freaky Tales was a really interesting experience. I saw Freaky Tales at the beginning of the year last year. I believe like March. Like it was like first quarter, I believe, like maybe February. Now, Freaky Tales is written by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, also directed by both of them. It stars Pedro Pascal, Jay Ellis, Ben Mendelsohn, Jack Champion, Angus Cloud, Dominique Thorne, and Normani. Now, R.I.P. Angus Cloud. This was like the last film I believe Angus Cloud was a part of, in my opinion. I believe so. Outside of that vampire film, I can't remember what the vampire film was that he was in. I don't know which one he shot first or not, but it was his last year of filming before he passed. And so, RIP to him. He was great in this film. Not great, but like he did what he needed to do, I should say. I think the real stars of this film are Pedro Pascal. Obviously, he's the center star of this film. But I think the breakout stars of this film are Jay Ellis and then Dominique Thorne and Normani. So I think Dominique Thorne and Normani in the act that they are in this film, they're doing great. I love that. I kind of want to see more of like Normani on screen and see what she can really do when acting. But Dominique Thorne is always great on screen. I think I want to see Dominique Thorne in more like serious roles. She's always in roles that like can't really do nothing with. Can't really talk about a lot. I want her to like take a serious role. I want somebody to give Dominic Thorne a serious role. I want her to go and really show us what she got. And Jay Ellis was great in this film. I think the turn that they did for his character, but also like I said, I'm an anime fan, so I love mixed martial arts. You know, it's very like Bushido Brown character-esque with his character in this film. And I love that whole arc of who doesn't love like, you know, the NBA star who's also like a samurai trained, you know, slicing up a whole bunch of like clan members. I loved it. It was nice for me. And then, you know, Pedro Pascal gets his baby back at the end. We love it all. I love it all. Hedda. What am I going to say about Hedda? Okay, so Hedda was written by Henrik Eastman and Nia DaCosta. Love Nia DaCosta. And it was also directed by none other than herself, Ms. Nia DaCosta, right? And it stars Tessa Thompson and Nina Haas. I'm just going to keep it short and simple. I love Tessa Thompson. I think Nia DaCosta did fine here. Nina Haas doing okay. She came in and did what she had to do. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Hedda, honestly. I think it's a good film. Like, I'm really neutral on Hedda. I don't have a lot of thoughts. I just don't. Like, I feel like there's something about Hedda that's missing for me to really like have like a strong feeling towards it. And when I don't have like any strong feelings towards the film, outside of me loving an actor who's in the film, I don't really want to speak on it too much. And so I just give this film like 3.5 out of 5 stars, and we're gonna leave it there. Cool. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Now, a lot of people don't like this film. This film is written by Scott Cooper, Warren Zanes, directed by Scott Cooper. It stars Jeremy Allen White, Jeremy Strong, and Odessa Young. A lot of people, this is like Brian Springsteen biopic if you didn't know by the title. But a lot of people don't like this film. A lot of people felt like this film was very choppy. It felt like it was very like unfocused. They felt like this film was not interesting enough. I think a lot of people were comparing this film to A Complete Unknown, which was a Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothée Chalamet, which came out the year prior. I think they were kind of like comparing and trying to see like if Jeremy Allen White was going to give a more compelling story and performance than Timothée Chalamet did with A Complete Unknown. Obviously he didn't, but to me, I don't dock points because it's not another film. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm not docking points because it's not the film that we wanted it to be that came out a year prior. Go watch that film if you want it to be that film. I liked what everyone was doing in this film. I walked away feeling very connected to the film and the character of Bruce Springsteen in this film, who is portrayed by Jeremy Allen White. I am very enthralled with Jeremy Allen White, so I have no gripes with this film at all. If you don't like it, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to argue with you. If you love it, I'm going to say, hey, I really liked it. So no notes really on this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Zootopia 2. Okay, so like Zootopia 1 is like one of the best like animated films of like the 2010s. I feel like it's one of the best like animated film IPs we have out right now, outside of like anime. And so going into Zootopia 2, I was like, has to be great because Zootopia 1 is like perfect comedy. Comedy that we don't get in children's storytelling anymore. It's like comedy that's like wink winks at adults. It's a film that for children where the parents can have fun as well. And I feel like a lot of older like Pixar and Disney animation films used to do that for the parents who are coming to see it, or like the teenagers or the young adults who are going to go see the films. But today, a lot of them like don't really like allow adult audiences to like come into the enjoyment of the material itself. But Zootopia does do that, and Zootopia 2 did recreate what Zootopia 1 did do to a T, in my opinion. Jared Bush, who's the writer and the director of this film, as well as Byron Howard. And it stars Jennifer Goodwin, Jason Bateman, and Ki Kwang. As the lead characters of this film, I can't really say a lot because obviously it's a child's film and it's not something I'm just like enthralled with. There's not much to the Zootopia lore, but I do think like Zootopia is just like a great film to watch. That's all I'm going to say. And everyone who watches it, like I don't see how you come away from Zootopia just being like, ugh. Zootopia it's fun. It's fun. It's fun for the kids. It's fun for the family. It's fun for the adults. Can we just have fun? We can have fun sometimes, can't we? We can have fun. I feel like we can all have fun. And so Zootopia 2 was fun. Wake Up Dead Man. Okay, so Wake Up Dead Man, obviously written and directed by Rian Johnson himself. It's the third installment to the Knives Out franchise. It stars Daniel Craig, Josh O'Connor, Glenn Close, Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Kerry Washington, Andrew Scott, Kaylee Spaney, and Daryl McCormick, right? The whole ensemble shebang. I thought that this was a better Knives Out film than Glass Onion. I think Glass Onion is a terrible film, but I also don't think that Wake Up Dead Man is a better film than the first Knives Out. As I just said, Ana de Armas, who stars in the first Knives Out, as well as Chris Evans, as well as Toni Collette, as well as a slew of other legends, right? But I think Wake Up Dead Man didn't do better. It didn't outdo the original film, but it did bounce the franchise back in my heart from what Glass Onion did. Because after Glass Onion, I was like, Rian Johnson, please stop. Like, please quit it. Please quit the antics. But Wake Up Dead Man, it was a solid film, honestly. I think Daniel Craig's character, he takes the backseat in this film. He's really the supporting character in this film, and it's really Josh O'Connor's film. I guess, like, you know, Ryan Johnson just was like, hey, it's Josh O'Connor's year. He's been in 5 projects this year. Let's go ahead and put him at the forefront. People are going to love it. People find Josh O'Connor very endearing. So I think it was a smart choice. Don't really understand all the hype that like early Oscar season hype that Glenn Close was getting. She's not doing nothing in this film. She's not doing anything in this film. Josh Brolin, he's funny. He's not really doing a lot in this film. I don't think any of the supporting cast were utilized properly. I don't think Mila Kunis was utilized properly. I don't think Jeremy Renner was utilized properly. I don't think Kerry Washington was utilized properly. I don't think Andrew Scott was utilized properly. I don't think Kaylee Spaney, Queen, was utilized properly. And I don't think Daryl McCormick, I think Daryl McCormick was honestly utilized properly. He also was in Anniversary, as I just spoke about, and I think he was utilized better in Anniversary than he is here. I don't really like the whole, like, you know, shtick that his character was doing in the film, but you know, none of the ensemble was really that amazing in this film, so I can't really drag his character and not do the same for the other characters, which I don't want to do because it would take too long. However, it's a perfectly fine film. We move on. Together. Okay, so Together is a film written by Michael Shanks and directed by Michael Shanks. It stars Dave Franco, his wife Alison Brie, and Damon Harriman. So this is like a thriller. This is like kind of a horror film. It basically follows like this couple. They move out of New York into like outskirts of New York or whatever you call that. What's like, you know, like suburbia of like outside of New York City. And they move to this house that has like some very weird effects going on with the people who live inside of it. It kind of tries to fuses the people together, and like they have to figure out like what's the issue there. And like how they got brought into this like predicament. It was a really neat film for the first 2 acts, and then the third act, it just like fully fell apart. Like the third act just fully fell apart. As I said, 2025 is the year where third acts just are not good, and this is an example of what I mean when I say that. The very last scene, we're playing. Y'all are playing in our faces. You're throwing jokes in our faces. You're trying to, you know, really like fuck with us. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So it was a great premise that got squandered by like some type of, you know, meta commentary that the Michael Shanks wanted to make on the queer community. And let's not do that. Let's just not do that again. Thanks. Song Sung Blue. Song Sung Blue was actually the last film I watched in 2025. I watched Song Sung Blue on Christmas Day, I believe. It's written by Craig Brewer and Greg Coes and directed by Craig Brewer. It stars Hugh Jackman, Kate Hudson, and Ella Anderson. What do I think about Song Sung Blue? So first of all, Craig Brewer, who also directed Hustle and Flow, I believe, and wrote Hustle and Flow. Love Hustle and Flow. I really do like Song Sung Blue. I don't think Song Sung Blue is a bad film. I don't think it's just like this great film. I think it's a very solid film. Hugh Jackman is doing what Hugh Jackman does, and it's great in this film. He's very endearing. He has this charisma that's like dad charisma, in my opinion. Like there's some people who just have like dad charisma. Like I feel like Jason Statham has like dad charisma. I feel like Matt Damon has like dad charisma. And so it's like people like who like you just like look up to, like their charisma is something like you look up to, like you want them to be like kind of like, you see them as like an authority figure kind of in a sense. That's what's endearing about them. And so Hugh Jackman, or like a seniority figure, I should say. And Hugh Jackman just does that very well. Kate Hudson's character, Kate Hudson does well in this. Kate Hudson's character, I really struggle with a little bit here and there because I feel like kind of One Note didn't really give too much to her character as they did for everyone else. But the real true, like, you know, highlight of this film is Ella Anderson, who plays the daughter in this film. I did not know who Ella Anderson was before I saw this film. I do know that Ella Anderson is one of the stars of Henry Danger. I left Nickelodeon and Disney Channel like early. I left Nickelodeon and Disney Channel like 6th grade. Like when I turned 11, like I was all the way up to like MTV, Teen Nick maybe, but really I was on premium channels. I was watching HBO in 6th grade. I was watching Showtime in 6th grade. I'm watching Stars in 6th grade. I'm not on Nickelodeon right now, and I'm not on Disney, and I was barely on Cartoon Network, but so I never got exposed to Ella Anderson anyway, but she's a star in this film, and I want to see her in a lot more things. So bravo to Ella Anderson. Lurker. Okay, so Lurker. Lurker is written and directed by Alex Russell. It is his debut feature film, I believe. It stars Theodore Pellerin, Theodore Pellerin and Archie Madquay, I believe is how you say his name. I like this film for a directorial debut. I feel like this film was like a good experiment. I feel like it was a good way to like, you know, start off your career for Alex Russell. I think it plays on a lot of like, you know, known storytelling when it comes to like obsessed fan and like Star, who's kind of problematic but not really, and gets tricked or gets like lured in by this obsessive person. It was really cool. The third act sucks. Sorry. Third act is bad. So the first two acts I was rolling with it, and then the third act we just go off the rails, and then the ending I really didn't like. I felt like the ending was just very, very flat. I felt like the ending was just like disappointing also. Like the ending was just very disappointing. It was just like we just gave up. Like I feel like we didn't really know how to end the story in a unique way, so we just went with like let's just go with the great old way that they end these types of stories. But I will be excited to see what Alex Russell does in the future. The Smashing Machine. Okay, The Smashing Machine is written and directed by Benny Safdie, who's one of the Safdie brothers. And it also stars Dwayne Johnson, Emily Blunt, and Ryan Bader. I really enjoyed The Smashing Machine. I don't think The Smashing Machine is like anything to rave about. I don't think it's something to tell somebody that like, you gotta see this film. I'm not gonna do that to nobody because this film has a lot of flaws. It does. I think the flaws are in its writing, and I think the flaws are kind of in like the portrayal of the film in itself. I feel like it kind of was like misrepresented in the media, and then like I feel like it kind of just needed to be different in totality once I saw it. I do think that the dynamics between like Dwayne Johnson, I think Dwayne Johnson is doing the best in this film, and I think Emily Blunt is doing fine. I don't think Emily Blunt's character gets a lot of room to be like more than like a one-dimensional character in this film. However, I do think the scene where Emily Blunt does that tear while she's in a white dress and she's taking a photo, exquisite. I think the meme that has been like generated on Twitter surrounding Emily Blunt's character like trying to like fake unalive herself is hilarious. I know it's bad to say that's hilarious, but I love that as a meme because it's just very dramatic, and she was just being very dramatic in the film. And I think like Dwayne Johnson's responses to what she was doing in the film were just very hilarious because it's so like there's just two separate extremes going on at the same time. I do want Dwayne Johnson to do more serious roles. I don't want him to give up. I know The Smash Machine did not do what it was supposed to do. It didn't get you in the Oscar conversation. It didn't, wasn't a smash in the box office. It wasn't anything that you wanted to do. It didn't put Benny Safdie on a higher level or anything like that. But I want you to keep going, Dwayne. You're there. You're a serious actor. We can get you there. You just got to find the right material. Come on, pop up. We can do it. We can do it. Dangerous Animals. Okay, so this was the most like, I think this was the film that I had the lowest expectations for and came out being like, why did I put low expectations on this film? Because there's a lot of neat things going on in this film. Now, this film is written by Nick Leppard, directed by Sean Byrne. It stars Hassie Harrison, who I don't believe I've ever seen Hassie Harrison before. I think it's like her first feature film as well, like as a lead role at least. Jai Courtney, who I have seen before, and then Josh Houston, right? And so this film follows basically like there's a surfer chick in Australia. I believe she's in Australia. Yeah, the surfer chick in Australia, and she's out surfing, but then she gets entrapped by this guy who hunts for women to kidnap, take on his boat out into the ocean, and feed to sharks because he has like some type of sick fantasy around like killing people from, shark mutilation, I guess. And basically it follows her trying to escape and, free herself from this, doomed destiny as Josh Houston character also comes and tries to save her from it. I feel like this film is very reminiscent of Disturbia starring Shia LaBeouf, because it's like that very like it's like YA almost film, but like you have like this murderous assailant in like the background of this film, while like the real true story is like this like love story, like kind of like a romance, like bubbling romance story between like the male lead and the female lead, or protagonist I should say. And so that really is occurring here, and I really love the storytelling that was going on between both of them. And so I am high on this film. I'm high on this film. I'll tell anybody to go see this film if you're looking for a good thriller to watch that's not just too exciting, too scary or anything like that. It's just another thriller that's like interesting. It has some interesting stuff to do. I think it is one of the best like shark films that are out there. There's not a lot of shark films that are really good. And I think this is one of those shark films that is really good. It might be like the best shark film I've seen so far today, if I'm being honest. So that is my recommendation for all of you who haven't seen Dangerous Animals. Go see that. Watch it with your boo. Watch it with your family. Watch it with your friends. Do something like that. It's a cute little, quirky little, like, fun night watch to do. So, Drop. Okay, so Drop is written by Gillian Jacobs and Chris Roach, and it's directed by Christopher Landon, starring Megan Fahey, Brandon Sklenar, and Gabrielle Ryan. I like this film. I think this film like had like the most like sane expectations ever. What I saw in the trailer is what I got in the film. I walked in, I was like, oh, what is it going to be? Oh, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. Cool, I'm not disappointed. I left. That's all I have to say about this film. Megan Fahey, I want you to be booked and busy. I want her to be in a lot more things. I think she's a great actress. I thought Megan Fahey was the best part of White Lotus season 2. Love that about her. Brandon Sklenar, I don't really have a lot for you. I don't have a lot for you, Brandon Sklenar, but wishing you well. I have not seen The Housemaid. I don't think I'm going to watch The Housemaid until, I don't even when The Housemaid comes out on streaming, I don't even know if I'm going to watch The Housemaid. I'm sorry. I'm just not enthralled by stuff like that. So Brandon Sklenar, you got to like get into your like Scott Eastwood bag and like get into some stuff that I could really watch you in and kind of take you seriously in, you know, because I feel like that's his lane. But Megan Fahey, I hope the best for you. The Mastermind. Okay, The Mastermind, written by Kelly Reichardt, I think that's how you say her name, and then directed by Kelly Reichardt as well. It stars Josh O'Connor and Alana Haim. I was satisfied with this film. I've never seen a Kelly Reichardt film ever, I don't believe. So when I went into the early screening for this film, I went to the early screening on this film on a Wednesday, I believe, and it was packed out. It was packed out. There were so many people in the theater for this film. I was like, oh, like, I thought I was gonna be the only person here because when I got my ticket, I was the only person with a ticket. But now everybody's here. Now I have to sit next to people. Oh, okay, cool. And it's a lot of couples. There's a lot of couples in the theater. So I'm like, wow, okay. Watched it. It basically was one of those films, like I told you, I do like films that are just basically like exercises for everybody involved. Like I told you, like with Kinds of Kindness and Yorgos Lanthimos, it's like one of those films where like everybody here is just like trying to like, you know, practice what they're going to do to give to like film creation, like, you know, and all that stuff. And I feel like this is what that film was. I know that this is kind of like her shtick and her style, the way that this film is like, you know, curated, but I haven't seen any other of her other films, so I can't really like attest to that or say like whether I like her vibes or not. I have to see another film and see if I like that. I'm very neutral on this film, honestly. I can't really say much about this film. I think this is like the best performance from Alana Haim. She's not really doing a lot, but it's better than her performance in Licorice Pizza, and she didn't really have a bigger performance in One Battle With Another, so I would say this is her best performance so far. Maybe that Kelly just knows to do it, Alana. Maybe she needs to be with more women directors, maybe. Who knows? But, you know, very neutral on this film overall. Josh O'Connor, lovely regardless. Hope he keeps doing more. I want to see him do better. Warfare. Okay. So, as I said earlier, so I'm not the biggest Alex Garland fan, but this film, I believe, brought me back into Alex Garland land a little bit. So this film is written by Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland, and is directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza. It stars DeFaro Wuatai, Will Poulter, Cosmo Jarvis, Joseph Quinn, Kit Connor, Noah Centineo, and Charles Melton, and a slew of other young male actors, right? I think like Alex Garland just went and got every young male actor he could and like scoop up for this film, or the casting director, whoever that is, right? Which is good because it did get me to watch it in the theater, and I did. Now, this film is about Iraqi war, like Marines, and like them trying to like, you know, complete a mission out there in Iraq, I believe, where obviously they're doing things that like the Marines of the U.S. military did post 9/11 in Iraq, and that is go and like, you know, just ruin everything that's going on out there to a certain extent. I think the highlights of this film are the acting performances and the cinematography. I think the cinematography in this film and I'm trying to think like what can I say about the cinematography that really hits? Because I don't want to say that they displayed like the Iraqi settlements or villages, I should say, to be respectful, better than I've seen before, because I can't remember what the Hurt Locker looks like, and I can't remember what American Sniper looks like again. But what I will say is that the sequences where like they're showing the procedures of where like the U.S. military to get cover for our soldiers out in Iraq, they would come and like fly the jets very close to the ground, which would then like ruin all the streets of the towns or villages that the Marines were going through in Iraq, was very insightful to a certain extent. Not in the way that they want us to. I think they want us to respect them more from that. I didn't respect you more from that, the military, but I did understand like how we really like just went over there and ruined everything that's going on to a certain extent. So that was very insightful. I do love how all of like some of my favorite young male actors did get to like get their juices off in regards to like serious performances. So, you know, you have Will Poulter here who's doing some things. You have Joseph Quinn who's doing some things here. You have Kit Connor. I think this is Kit Connor's like first film. I think this is like debut film. Like, I think he's only done TV since then. So Kit Connor was great in this film as well. Noah Centineo, he's not really in this film. Charles Melton, he's not really in this film, but I love Charles Melton, so they're doing great there. I do believe the Gandolfini son is in this film as well. Can't really remember his first name, but I think he was fine in this film too. I think everybody did well in this film. It's not really a film about anything, but just like some Marines like getting themselves into some shit and getting out of it. So, you know, I think the only big takeaway here is that Alex Garland, you kind of prove that you have some specialty to your cinematic abilities to me, and that's what prepped me to go and watch 28 Years Later. Because I think Civil War kind of like took me out of that, because like I thought Civil War was just like a horribly written film, but I do think Civil War has some great cinematography in it too. So I think Alex Garland has a really good eye. I think that's what I learned from this film, is that Alex Garland has like a really special eye, and I think 28 Years Later solidified that for me. So, and last but not least, Train Dreams. Yes, so Train Dreams is kind of like the last like buzziest Oscar film of 2025, I believe. I think like Train Dreams is like the last one to really come into the Oscar conversation. I think everything else had already been in the Oscar conversation, which currently in the Oscar conversation. But I think Train Dreams is also fallen out of the Oscar conversation. They haven't really won a lot of things, and Joel Edgerton doesn't really have anybody to be beside him in regards to the acting category, so it kind of like makes him look weaker as well as the film. So that fell off. However, this film is written by Clint Bentley, Greg Kodar, and Dennis Johnson, because I believe that it's based on a novel. I believe this is an adapted screenplay. And then it's directed by Clint Bentley as well, who I do admire. I think Clint Bentley is a great director. I think he directed Sing Sing as well, and I think he directed also another film that I remember I liked. I can't really remember right now, but it stars Joel Edgerton, Felicity Jones, William H. Macy, and Clifton Collins Jr. Train Dreams was a perfectly fine film. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. There's some moments in Train Dreams that I'm really really enthralled with, and I'm really like into the movie. And then there's some moments in this film that I'm like, I don't even know what's going on no more. Like, I really could care less. I think the third act kind of like just like flattens out a little bit for me when I really wanted to like keep going up, because I think the second act of that film is like really high. There's a lot of high moments in the second act of that film. I think it's also very insightful to what was actually going on with railroad workers during this time in America, and also like the racism that occurred then in regards to like the Asian immigrants, and then things like how just like the family life was back then. But also you have Felicity Jones playing his wife in this film, and anywhere Felicity Jones goes, I will go. I think Felicity Jones is always a great supporting actress. I do want Felicity Jones to do more work, not just as a supporting actress. I would love her to be a lead actress, to see what she could do there. Maybe there's a project that I haven't seen with Felicity Jones where she's a lead actress and I'm just missing out on stuff. But I did see her in The Brutalist, and I thought she was really the best part of The Brutalist to a certain extent, until that third act of The Brutalist, which is horrid in my opinion. But Train Dreams, totally fine with me. I think the cinematography for Train Dreams is amazing though. I think the coloring in Train Dreams is perfect. But that's all I have to say about Train Dreams. So yes, those are my thoughts on my favorite films of 2025. Now, there were some films omitted from that list that I have either already talked about in a solo video, which I'm not just gonna rehash my thoughts on them in this video, or I haven't talked about them at all, and I'm potentially gonna make a video about them in the future. So that's why those will be omitted. If you like, you know, didn't hear a few major names like Sinners or Hamnet or anything like that that came up, that like, you know that I probably watched, or that I should have watched in this film. Now, if there's some films that I should have watched in this year that you thought were really great and you think I would like, leave and drop those names in the comments and I will check those out. However, I do want to give y'all insight to my top 10 films of the year, just to let you know like how I felt overall about like the best product of 2025. At number 10, we have One Battle After Another. At number 9, we have F1. At number 8, we have Weapons. At number 7, we have Roofman. At number 6, we have Sinners. At number 5, we have Plain Clothes. At number 4, we have 28 Years Later. At number 3, we have Hamnet. And at number 2, we have Sorry Baby. And at number 1, as I already said, we have Twinless. Yes. So those are my top 10 films of the year. Let me know what y'all felt about your favorite films of the year. Let me know what your top 10 films of the year are in the comments, actually. And then maybe we could see if we had the same ones, or we like are completely on different ends of the spectrum in the cinephile universe. But who knows? I am going to do another video in regards to like my least favorite films of the year, so be on the lookout for that. But until then, I will see y'all later. Bye.